Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I have never, ever seen so many people so excited to get rid of a CEO. I'm uniquely qualified to make this introduction because, as you all now know, Dave and I are first cousins. So I've known Dave for 55 years, give or take. We lived in Transcona together, 6 blocks apart. And I have heard Dave actually give a speech entitled, "Some of the Best Things in the World Started in a Basement in Transcona." Now, I know some of you are right away thinking, and it's not true, Dave was not conceived in a basement in Transcona. Sean, Scott, I'm not sure. Well, we had, our family, so my dad is Dave's mother's brother, and we did lots of family things together, and really had lots of great moments in the basement of 1508 Hoka Street, the house that David grew up in. And there were some spectacular things that started in the basement in Transcona, and one of them was 3A Promotions, which was the Angus family business of awards and trophies. Another one, 6 blocks away, was the precursor to our current Carlisle Printer Services Supplies business, was the Johansson family business, Carlisle Computer Products. And I remember the glorious day when we moved out of the basement. We had 3 employees. There was my mother, my father, and myself. And we moved to palatial offices at 47 Gomez. That's just off of Higgins Avenue, just underneath the bridge. And I remember the glorious day when my father hired Dave to join the sales team of 2. It was him and I. And so, Dave really has this tremendous foundation of understanding small businesses because he lived it. He understands the power of family businesses. He understands the trials and tribulations of growing a business, adding staff, making payroll, finding new customers, developing a sophisticated marketing strategy, and still being willing to change the toilet paper in the bathroom. He understands that you have to give in order to get. Now, we've all been blessed to hear Dave give some wonderful presentations, and he learned that well from his father, my Uncle Bert Angus, who was the first Canadian to win the World Championship of Public Speaking. Phenomenal speaker. And Dave just takes it to another level. But I remember Uncle Bert was really skillful at weaving into his talks quotes and stories that left you thinking days after about what he said. And one of them that I'll never forget is, if you dream it, you can achieve it. But you will get all you want in life if you help other people get what they want. Ladies and gentlemen, the man that has spent 17 years helping the business community in Winnipeg get what they want, our honoree, Dave Angus.
Thank you very much. Thank you. 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 You are so insincere. I spent 17 years orchestrating standing ovations for speakers at the Chamber. You don't think I saw Lauren Remillard go around the head table going, okay, when he gets up there, everybody stand. Because if the head table stands, everybody else stands. It's magic. I am the master. And one thing about the staff, it's appropriate that the last song of the whole lot of Angus was Highway to Hell because you're all going to hell. I had a conversation with my staff. I said, small affair, few people. I want to say some thank yous, maybe a few reflections, very covert, very under the covers. This is a carnival. It is a festival. What I told them they did, and they took, as always, to do exactly the opposite. So I have something to say to all of you here today, and to my staff. Thank you. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate the honor that you're giving me here today. I'm kind of shocked at my kids, actually. Not that that's new. I'm shocked at their acting ability. I always knew they were bad actors, actually, just so you know. But what you did up here today, and no, you were not conceived in a basement in Transcona. It was the Chamber of Commerce. But other way. I want to thank Derek. Apparently, he thought we lived at 1508 Hoka. We lived at 1503 Hoka. I don't know who you were visiting or who you admired there, but apparently it wasn't my family. And one other thing, ISD, who I love, the bobblehead. Dimple, if you're going to do a bobblehead of me, can you at least take the time to put a little more hair on it while you're at it? Anyway. Thank you very much for being here today. I want to start with some thank yous. By the way, my mom's in the house. I could speak in front of 2,000 people and not shed a bead of sweat, but when my mom's in the house, I'm a pretzel. I can't swear. And I'm going to have to be careful. And by the way, if you're talking to my mom, she doesn't know that I work at the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce because she has no idea what that is. If she asks you, I'm an architect. Okay? And oh, by the way, that Canadian Museum for Human Rights, that's mine. But it's great to have my mom here. I want to, this isn't, first of all, there's a reason why I moved out of Transcona, okay? But boy, this does bring me back, and I look forward to, in about a month's time or so, being inducted as the new president and CEO of the Transcona Chamber of Commerce, ladies and gentlemen. Taking memberships now. I want to start with some thank yous, and there's a reason for it, because this really isn't about me. It's about you. It's about us. Because that's what the 17 years has been about. It's been a community. And if you look around this room, and that's why I do want to thank the staff for the work that you did, because when you look around this room, it is the community. It's people from business and from government and from community groups and arts and culture and social agencies and champions within our community that are coming here to celebrate my 17 years, but it's really our 17 years that we're celebrating here today. And so I want to thank you for being here, because it is about you, and I want to start with the thank yous for that reason. I want to thank my chairs. I have a mayor who was my chair. How awesome is that? Look at what I created, exactly. You're blaming me, is that what it is? You were making all kinds of money as a lawyer, I know. Now look at you. Hey. Hey. I want to thank my chairs. I've had 17 great chairs. I've always said that the chairs are my mentors. They are my educators. They're my inspirers. And I wasn't going to share this story, but I think it's appropriate because it underlines the nature of my chairs. And I want to thank Pretty, and I'm sorry to do it during your year. But there was a moment in time. I had a chair who criticized the city for their marketing. It was soon after we did a survey across the country and found out that we had a very bad image. Shocking. And so we made comments about how we need to step it up when it comes to marketing. And I remember getting a call from the city saying, as long as that person is your chair, you'll never get a meeting with the mayor. And it's neither the two mayors in this room, by the way. And I said, okay, we'll see you next year. And 2 weeks later, we got a call, and they wanted us to come out for a press conference. They wanted us to applaud the announcement, and they wanted us to say positive things to the media. And my chair and I were there. And we did applaud. And we did say positive things because it was a great announcement. And I want to thank my chairs for always taking the high road, for always taking a principled approach and inspiring me as the president and CEO for 17 years about knowing what's right and knowing what's in the best interest of our community and our members. So thank you to my chairs for 17 years of great service, and thank you for educating me because I learned from every one of them. I want to thank my community partners. I'm not going to name any one particular community partner because there's a ton of them in this room. But there's something special about Winnipeg. There's something special about how we collaborate and how we work together. There's something special about how we invite each other into our worlds. Every initiative that we did as a chamber was a collaboration with somebody. And it was just so easy in Winnipeg. I really think that is something special. And so I want to thank my community partners for teaching me why I should love this city. Every corner and every aspect and every attribute that the city has is represented by people in this room. I want to thank you for you doing the heavy lifting in the community as well and doing the tough work. So thank you to my community partners that are here today. I want to thank my family. Well, maybe not the boys, but I want to thank Cindy. It's not easy being married to me. I even know that. It's a busy job, and it's been very busy. And I remember one time, I was talking to Cindy. I said, I should probably, stay home a little bit more. I've been traveling a lot. I've been away a lot of rubber chicken dinners. And so I stayed home. About 2 days later, Cindy said, you got any trips coming up? But thank you. And I want to thank the boys, because they definitely keep me humble. For that job, they're overqualified, without question. But they are a lot of fun, and a lot of fun to be around. And I want to thank, last but not least, I want to thank my staff. And I want to thank staff that I've had for 17 years. There's no words to describe a staff that you always know they have your back. That when you are out there and things are going bad or things are going wrong or there's an issue, you know that you can look behind you and there's this band of staff behind you doing whatever they can to pick up the pieces. My staff is awesome. They are the reason. I've always said I've only had one strength. I lied, I got two. One strength is I for whatever reason, I bring good people around me. My second strength is I know enough to get the hell out of the way and let them fly. And boy, have they flown for 17 years, knocking it out of the park. I want to recognize two individuals that have been with me every day through my tenure. One is Karen Weiss, who's been there longer than I have, who really is a rock, who has always been there to stabilize things. And the second one is my partner in crime. It's Catherine Holder, who started basically the same day I did. And everything that we did together. Every accolade that I got, she was behind it. It was a partnership of this particular role. And I want to thank Catherine for her great service. Let's give Catherine and Karen, my whole staff, a big hand. Okay, but is this thing working? We got this? I got to tell you, I'm pretty much done, right? It's the end of July. You can't fire me now. I mean, there has been a frustration that I've had for 17 years. Okay? Let it go. There has been a frustration that I've had for 17 years. And it is plain and simple, because I've always had to be polite as a chamber president. You got to be polite. I can't stand, and I couldn't stand ever, when someone from outside this city would feel that it's okay for them, to my face, to criticize my city, or to be negative about it, or to be sarcastic about it. It drove me crazy every single time. Today, it ends. Because I want them to come to my city now, because obviously they don't know about it. You know, they call us Winterpeg. Well, come in winter, and you'll see a city that loves winter. We embrace it. We're out at the Forks. We're going down the skating trail. We're playing shinny. Festival de Voyageurs. Oh, hey ho. Whatever that means. Hey ho. Winterpeg is a compliment. We embrace it. We kick it. And we're out there every single day making it happen, because this is what we do. They say Winnipeg is boring, there's nothing to do. Well, come to Winnipeg. You'll run out of time of things to do and the choices. Our arts and cultural community, to the festivals, to all of the different things that happen within our community that they can enjoy. And then come and change yourself as a person. Come and walk into the Canadian Museum for Human Rights and change your life. All here in Winnipeg. So I got to tell you, on behalf of everybody in this room, that if anybody wants to come up to me from this day on, from outside of Winnipeg, and come and criticize my city, you better wear a helmet, my friend. Okay? Because I am a proud Winnipegger. Hear my roar. Okay? If you don't like it, there's the door. I want to apologize to the AV people. I'll pay for that. Apologize, sorry. I don't know what got into me. When I look at the last 17 years, and it's great because I've had this chance in the last couple of weeks to take a look at it, and the biggest thing that's changed in this community is pride, without question. I remember back when I started, we, around the chamber, we were looking at setting up committees. You know, whenever you have a problem with the chamber, okay, we got to have a committee. Have a committee. We need more pride. How can we get people to talk more positively about their own city? And frankly, that was worse, frankly, to hear than from others outside our city, because we should know better. It was like fingernails on a chalkboard to me when I heard Winnipeggers discrediting their own city. And so we'd have committees. We did a campaign. We know where you live.ca. We had these yellow sticky note campaign with different messages. I remember we had a contest, and the winner was, see if you get this, you can get married in Toronto, but nobody would come to your social. Because they don't have socials in Toronto. Very clever. I remember my favorite one that we couldn't use actually was, come to Winnipeg, 50 billion mosquitoes, can't be wrong. But it wasn't a committee, it wasn't a campaign. That's not how you change the pride. It's actually getting things done. And we have seen over the last 17 years a significant progress in this city. I have gone through 4 mayors and 4 premiers, and I want to commend all of them for their leadership and partnering and really reinventing this city with every project. And I've always said that I thought the milestone project was the MTS Center. Because I remember before that, it was lots of stops and starts. Tough to get things off the ground. We would let the naysayers, and as Premier Dewar would say, the nitpickers win. And that was the project that Mark Chipman and his family said enough, right to the Supreme Court. Right to make that project happen. And I noticed something different after it. I noticed that we were no longer accepting mediocrity and that we were going to get things done. And I'm proud of the people around the Canadian Museum for Human Rights who so many times had the opportunity and were encouraged to downgrade that institution, to save money and make it less. And they said, no, we're not going to make it less. We're going to make it more, because this is Winnipeg and this is how we do things. And we're seeing it project after project after project. The expansion of the convention center, the new airport, the new stadium. Every project now has a Winnipeg brand, and that brand is the best. And that's what's changed in 17 years. And I want to give you a hand for helping to facilitate that change. Thank you. But we have to protect it. We have to protect the pride. And we have to make sure we have a narrative to this city that's going to inspire. Where's Chris Lawrence? Where's Chris Lawrence? Chris Lawrence, can we stop the infrastructure narrative in this city, Chris? You know I appreciate the investment that we require. And I know Chris agrees with this. He agrees that infrastructure is an enabler. It's an enabler to what's at the end of it. It's the jobs, it's the arts and culture, it's the amenities, it's the green space. It's all of those things that define quality of life. And I always get frustrated during elections, as an example, where we ask citizens, what's your biggest issue? You know, what's the thing that's going to make a difference to your family? And they go, potholes. Potholes. You know? Or, you know, I won't say mayors, I'll say councilors that are out there saying, you know, what is the big issue? What are you going to bring to Winnipeg? What's your leadership? And they go, well, here's what I do. I'm going to take your money, I'm going to buy me some asphalt, and then I'm going to lay it down. Awesome. And I'll tell you why the narrative's important. And the narrative's important because of the next generation. One of the most important initiatives, the most pleasurable initiatives I've been involved in with the Chamber is our high school program. And I gotta tell you, if you want to be impressed with the next generation, spend some time with them, because they are awesome. And they're looking for a new narrative. They're not coming up with the pothole answer, I can guarantee you that. They're looking at higher sites, more valuable sites. You know, during that program, and I'm gonna have some advice for you right now, as parents. Who are parents here? Whose parents have kids? Okay. During the high school program, I can always tell when a kid was articulating something that came from their parents. So here's my advice to you. Quit talking to your kids. Right today. No more communication. It's for the best of the community, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? But it's true, and I remember having actually a discussion about rapid transit, and there was somebody really advocating for the line that goes out from downtown to the University of Manitoba, and we need rapid transit, and then there one person put up his hand and said, well, I live in the Maples. What's that to me? And he said, I need convenient transit. And he started talking about how the transit system needs to connect and how active transportation lines need to, and he talked about a system that came from him because that was important to him. I know that there's, I think, a governor from Alaska that made a comment that politicians speak to the next 4 years. Leaders speak to the next generation. I say great leaders let the next generation speak. So let them speak. I do want to say how proud I am of the business community. It has been an honor to serve our Winnipeg business community. There's something special about them. It is the reason why I'm going to work for this guy. Yeah, I know, exactly. Wait a minute, no, that's over here. There is something special about the Winnipeg business community. It's the most philanthropic business community in the country, without question. And they do it for a reason. There's a culture here. It's not just about giving money, it's about supporting your community. I heard, David won't even know this, but Johnson Group was up getting an award, and you had one of your representatives there, one of your senior managers, and he said the Johnson Group's motivation for growth is so that we have an ability to contribute more back to the community. And I think that motivation is the reason why I am looking forward to the next chapter of my life. But that is a motivation that runs deep within this business community. And I also want to say this about our business community. We are resilient. I remember during the economic downturn, toughest time to be in my job, as I watched businesses struggle. We always say, wow, we did better than anybody else. Well, tell that to the company that almost lost, that was cutting people. Tell that to the people that lost contracts in the US. No, it wasn't all roses for Winnipeg business. But I can tell you, did a survey 2 years after the downturn and asked businesses, what was your strategy to get through it? Number 6 was cut staff. Same question was asked in the US. Number 1. There is something about Winnipeg businesses that will look to people last because they know how valuable they are. There's a resiliency. They look for 5 other things before they went to cutting staff. And that's why I'm proud of Winnipeg business. But I'm going to challenge Winnipeg business. Because we need to, number 1, and Derek will agree with this, we need to support our local people. We need to support local business more. There needs to be a culture to do exactly that. And I'm passionate about it because I spent 17 years looking eyeball to eyeball with businesses that are doing their best, trying to meet the payroll, trying to grow, trying to compete, trying to adjust to the changes that are happening around them. These are people, these are families, these are community members, and they deserve our support. When you have a choice to invest in a company, make it local, because that's good return on your investment. So I challenge the business community to do that. I also challenge the business community to be ahead of the changes. This is an exciting and a scary time all at the same time to be in business. The changes that are happening are dramatic and they're happening quickly, right, Michael? Disruptive technology are changing business models quicker than ever before. Consumer practices, consumer behavior is changing quicker than ever before. It is scary and exciting all at the same time. And as Winnipeg businesses, we need to get ahead of those changes. One of the areas of the city I love the most is Innovation Alley. I got to know that through Michael Legary, my past chair. And there is something special about it. And I wrote a little piece on here that the startup community represents a collective of hopes and dreams put through a meat grinder. Moonshots of ideas grounded in disruptive technology and scalability, driven by craft dinner entrepreneurs with bravado and a risk threshold that is through the roof. An ecosystem of creative juices right here in Winnipeg. And I got to tell you that as Winnipeg businesses, we need to get to know these entrepreneurs. Let's innovate together with the next generation of entrepreneurs in Innovation Alley. But we are in great hands when it comes to the local business community. And I look forward to participating with you all in my next career going forward. I'm also very proud of our political leadership. And I'm not just saying because the mayor is sitting here with a knife in his hand. Yeah, but we also have, is Glenn Murray in the audience? Is Glenn Murray here? Glenn Murray! Just to be fair, Brian Bowman! I'm going to have a message on behalf of both of you to the rest of the audience, the rest of the community. If you think the politicians are the problem, you're wrong. It's the environment we put them in. You want leadership, then put them in an environment that allows them to lead. And that's a message to the media as well. These are people that go in with the best intentions and they get stuck in a system that frustrates the heck out of them in terms of getting things done. And I have so much admiration for those that seek political office. 2 of my favorite times actually represented here today. One was Brian's campaign. Loved his campaign. Loved working on the campaign. Loved the excitement. But most of all, I loved watching you grow through the campaign. And so that was a favorite moment. That was a highlight for me. The other highlight, Glenn, was the New Deal. The New Deal discussions. And what I loved the most was watching my mayor, Glenn Murray, go out to community forums like you did to sell this thing, and I went to 2 of them, and watching you get slaughtered. That was fun for me. But what it showed was leadership. And the lesson was that for tough decisions and big ideas, you got to let people vent. You got to let them get it out on the table. And at the end of that discussion, the whole community was ready to move forward. And it was that heavy lifting and that courage that you showed during that time. And those are 2 great times for me. And I want to commend our political leadership. We are at a very interesting time because we have 3 new governments. Fairly new, Brian? Brian Pallister, new premier. I almost said Pierre Trudeau. It goes back a ways. Justin Trudeau, new prime minister. 3 new governments that have an opportunity to be the leaders we know that they can be. And I think the challenge that I've had in 17 years is the system. And I think political leaders of yesterday are conditioned to lead by public opinion polls, by lowering expectations, by simplifying the message, by controlling communications, and by discrediting the opposition. I hope political leaders of tomorrow and our current political leadership will lead through elevating sights, through inspiration and hope, through challenging the status quo, through the articulation of a clear vision and inviting everyone to follow them to a better place. That is my hope for our leaders of today, and in my hope for all of us to allow them to do exactly that. Now, I talked about pride and I talked about our community, and you know, one of the things that I got to know over my travel times is that the worst time 17 years ago, and even 10 years, even 5 years ago, was on the plane. Because you fly into Winnipeg, and invariably there's somebody sitting behind me that complains about the city. And usually it's a Winnipegger. And I've had to listen to this and, you know, try to contain myself. Or it's somebody from out of town, and they're flying in, they see the snow, they see the cold, they announce the temperature, and there's groans and grunts, and, well, that's changed. A week ago, I was on Air Canada flight coming back from Toronto. And we're descending into Winnipeg, and I listened to a conversation that happened behind me. And it was a young man who started talking to a woman from Toronto sitting next to him about his city. And he started talking about the lakes and the beautiful lakes that we have here and how accessible they are and how gorgeous the countryside are and how much we enjoy that as Winnipeggers and Manitobans. And he started talking about, he says, you know, I travel around the world. I remember these words, I travel around the world, but there's no sunset as beautiful as in Winnipeg. Just beautiful sunsets. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And then we're flying into Winnipeg, and I didn't even notice this before, but if you look at Winnipeg when you're flying in, it's a forest. He said, look at the greenery in our city. It's like we built this city like in a forest. And even the Toronto person was looking out and going, wow, that's something. And I got up when we landed, I got up and I shook his hand, and I thanked him for being such a champion for Winnipeg. Because that, to me, represented how things have changed in our community. And I thought, boy, wouldn't it be great if you could meet him? Well, you can meet him, because I invited him here today. Steve Axworthy, where are you? Right there. Come on, stand up, Steve. Let's give Steve a big hand. Thanks a lot, Steve. Thanks for being here. That's great. Beauty. Keep it going, Steve. And if you could throw in a couple of good comments about Transcona next time, that would be good too. I want to end by talking about my community. Because, after 17 years and after what I've been through, the people I've met, things I've learned, the more I've learned about Winnipeg, the more I love it. And Winnipeg is like a quilt. Lots of differences. It's a patchwork of different cultures, of different ethnicities, of different gender differences, different opinions, different communities, different backgrounds. And the threads are what bring it together. And I want to share with you 3 stories that happened on the threads. The threads where community comes together, where I wasn't the president and CEO of the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce, I was just a Winnipegger, where minds get changed, where views of your own community and yourself get changed as well. 3 things happened on the threads. I invited, and by the way, all of them involve the Indigenous community, which has been the greatest gift for me over my 17 years, is to get to know the Indigenous community and their culture and their history. First story, I want to thank Kelly Holmes. Kelly Holmes from Ray invited me to participate in a program called Hard Nights Out. Started at the Yappy table at noon, got lined up with a homeless person. I had 2 homeless people, they were a couple. And you go the whole day walking in the shoes of a homeless person, and all night. And you end up, I know the people from Siloam are here, end up at the Siloam mission the next day. I can't talk about what happened because it is too emotional. Their name was Leon and Grace. Leon was a transplant from New Brunswick that got stuck here, got his wallet stolen, ended up at the Salvation Army, ended up on the street. Grace was a beautiful Aboriginal woman that has been beaten down by life. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and they were living on the street. And we spent the day, they didn't panhandle, they collected cans. And we spent the day collecting cans, and then we end up in St. Boniface where they get money for the cans, and then they use the money. And we would look for food. And the one thing I learned was it takes an hour, because I was looking for food with them. It takes an hour. It takes an hour for you to stop worrying about what other people think. I was self-conscious for an hour, and then I was focused on the mission. And I went with them. But the moment that changed my life was when we were walking down the street, and Leon said, "You know what? We got lucky because Grace got hit by a car." I said, "Lucky?" He said, "Yeah. It wasn't her fault. We got a settlement for $23,000. I said, "Oh." He said, "But she blew it." He said she was set. She could have got a place, she could have back on her feet, could have that, but she blew it. She blew through $23,000 in 1 year on drugs for her, her family, and her friends. And I looked over at Grace, expecting to see this face of shame, and I saw a smile with a mumble under her voice, "Best year of my life." And I realized at that moment, Kelly, that this is complicated stuff. That there's no cookie cutter solutions. There's no magic solutions. There's no magic bullets. And it takes a community. And every story is different and needs to be treated that way. Grace, I knew at that point, is probably going to die in the streets of Winnipeg. But that's okay, because she didn't want anything from me. She just didn't want me to hate her. She just wanted me to respect her. And that I can do. I don't know what compelled me to go to Shoal Lake. I went because we were looking at how Winnipeg can create economic partnerships with First Nations communities. And it was Sharon Redsky, who convinced me I should go to Shoal Lake. So I did, and I can thank Sharon for this gift. We went there, I just brought some staff, and we went, got met by the chief, Chief Irwin Red Sky, and I'll never forget the opening because I'm a chamber guy. Let's get down to business. You know, how can we help? How can we partner? What are some economic opportunities? Chief said, hang on, Angus. You got to get to know us. He says, let me bring you into our community hall. We're going to take you through our Canadian Museum for Human Rights abuses, atrocities. And he took me through their story. And I was blown away by disappointment after disappointment after disappointment of this community that sacrificed so much for my community. And the moment that changed my life was when they finished the story, and I realized it wasn't their story. It was my story too. And there was a compelling need to do something to make it right. Because freedom also comes to those that make things right. And so that's why, to this day, I will be a champion for the people of Shoal Lake, because you'll never meet a nicer group. There I am with Stuart Red Sky. You know, Stuart told me the story. Here's the piece. You know, they tried so hard to get resolution, but they tried not for themselves, they tried for the kids. And he had 2 grandkids that lived with him on reserve. And they did a march to Winnipeg. 4 days, marched and camped, got to Winnipeg. And on the way back, his grandkids looked at him and said, Grandpa, nothing happened. And he had to say yes. It was after that his grandkids left reserve and said, there's nothing here for me. And when I talk to Stuart, he gets emotional because his wife, the grandmother, cries almost every night because her grandkids are at the other end of the pipe. So success might be Freedom Road. Success to me is when Stuart's grandkids come back to where they belong in Shoal Lake and say, I can make a future here in my home, in my way. That's success. My last story comes courtesy of another hero, Michael Champagne. Where's Michael? He's in the house. Michael, there you are. Stand up, Michael. I want you to stand up. Let's give Michael a big hand. Michael is 29 years old. Looks like he's 19. You probably don't recognize him because he always has a megaphone in his face, shouting out instructions and getting people organized. I have never met somebody so skilled at organizing community. And this is an asset we need to leverage big time in this community. And I will do anything with you, Michael, anything at all, because you deserve support. Michael gave me the honor and privilege of inviting the chamber out to meet me at the Bell Tower, a place in the middle of the North End where we rarely go to come and meet community. So we did a chamber night there, and I had some board members with me. And we went, and the program was great. We talked to the community, and we gathered together, but that wasn't the moment. And Michael let me ring the bell. And that was fun. That wasn't the moment either. The moment came after. The moment came when we will go across the street to that community gathering. And what they do is they have prizes, and they have food, and they gather as community, and they start creating relationships. And there's a program there where they teach generosity, where the children will go and give gifts out to the visitors to express generosity. And I remember I was with my wife, Cindy, and she was standing beside me, and I won one of the prizes, so I was looked after. And a young girl from the North End came up to Cindy and said, "Did you get a prize?" I said, No, that's okay. And she ran off. And she came back, and she brought that. And she gave it to Cindy. It sits on our mantle as a reminder of what's important, as a reminder of the evening that a little girl from the North End taught this old guy a big lesson. And I look at it now, and what we share is place. We share place. The two of us. We shared the North End. We shared community. We shared each other. That is a moment I will never forget, and it's a gift given to me from Michael. Thank you. I'm going to end like I have ended many, many speeches, and it's with a poem. Over the last 17 years, there's always a poem, and it's a poem that was written by my father. It was inspired by something he read by an unknown author. And I would just do it because I thought, I kind of like the words. But I think what I was really doing over those last 17 years was kind of connecting back to him, because he was my hero. I just loved who he was. And so it was a touchstone, always back to him. This is the last time I'm going to give this poem. But I think it's the most appropriate time and the most powerful time. You have honored me here today with your presence, and you have honored me with your work within the community. And every interaction that I've had, and every moment that I've spent with you, and you, and you, and you, has made me a better person. And this is the occasion for me to thank you very much for that. God said, build a better world. I said, God, I am but one. The world is such a mixed up place. I'll lose before I've won. God said, just a minute now. Here's all you have to do. The way to build a better world is to build a better you. Thank you so much for honoring me here today. I'll never forget it. I'll see you on the threads. Thank you.